So, hi everybody. Yeah, this is the first time you're on stage, and we've practiced a lot before our girlfriends and our moms and our colleagues, but this is truly something different. So excited to be here.
Yeah, there is quite some people, and we want to make two things clear. We're both 22, we're Dutch, got brown hair, but we're not brothers, and he's not small, I'm just really tall. He wanted to say that to save his ego. My name is Ilja van Eck. I am, as Peter introduced, an independent designer and webflow developer. I work with agencies and cool people from all over the world to build nice experience websites.
Yes, and my name is Erwin Luijendijk, and I'm the founder of Cut the Code, and I'm 22 as well. And I started 2.5 years ago, and we are now with a team of 8 people, so that's cool. Okay, before we begin, let's close your eyes. No, like for real, close your eyes. Okay, imagine that you are working on your never-ending portfolio dream, or that cool SaaS project you have always wanted to build to become a millionaire before the age of 30. But you were held back due to the technical complexities. But imagine that that dream is coming true, and you are able to turn your dreams into a reality. Sounds like the future, right? And that future is here.
Hear the rumble. Hear the rumble, yeah, yeah. Hear the
Run for them life. When I step into the jungle, say they wanna group up. They better move up, never gonna win a Royal Rumble. But when I come through, you know what I love to. I send shots for your team and leader. I make a witness decide to vacate. The war's getting sweet just like a Ribena. Yo, listen, you hear that? Killers in the jungle. Killers in the jungle. Killers in the jungle. Yo, listen, you hear that? Killers in the jungle. Killers in the jungle. Killers in the jungle.
hear the rumble. Hear the rumble, yeah, yeah. Hear the rumble.
It's even cooler on a big screen. Okay, before we begin, we want to rewind a bit in time. Back when the internet only existed out of binary code, zeros and ones, it was a bit of a complex language, only known to a very select few people. And it was a whisper almost among tech enthusiasts, a new thing. But the internet now today has become the world's loudest voice. It's shaping economies and cultures, politics even. It's basically shaping the whole world. Heck, it's even what brought us here today in this very room. It's our jobs, our lives, and our passions. Back in the early 90s, the first websites launched on the World Wide Web, and it was a bit of a newborn taking its first steps with very pretty things launching. It seems like we've come a long way. But so began an era of specialists where only a select few people were able to harness these powers of creating digital creations. Was almost a bit of a superpower.
Yes, it was like a wild, wild web. And the internet existed of companies like Microsoft and Facebook as the new sheriffs in town. And Ilja, imagine if we were born a bit earlier, then we would have been like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. But we were just like this.
Sounds like we missed our chance or not. Because something changed very early on, actually, in the industry when programmers began crafting no-code tools. They began sharing these superpowers they had to create tools for non-programmers to create for the web as well, where they were basically democratizing the internet. And in 1994, the very first no-code tool launched called GeoCities, and it was a bit of the vibrant corner of the internet. And about 2 years later, Microsoft launched their tool called FrontPage, and it was the very first what you see is what you get HTML editor. And it actually lasted for quite some time. And over the next 2 decades, basically when we were born, more and more tools came onto the market for a more and more diverse audience being able to create. And we had to ask ChatGPT because we weren't born the first 5 years Flash existed. You all know it. But later on, we apparently got Adobe Muse. We're not going to talk about that. Later on, we got WordPress and Elementor, allowing you to drag and drop sites together using components and customizing stuff. And even later, more and more tools got onto to the market. Think Wix, Squarespace, Weebly, you name them. We could fill this whole slide probably in 3 more.
Yes. And let's fast forward, because the digital world has changed, and like a lot. We saw an increase and improvement in specialized no-code tools. And this was a very important moment. Just like new program languages emerged, more specialized, more efficient, and more robust no-code tools came into existence. Closer and closer to hit the industry standards. And so a new era of digital creation began. For example, a marketer is now able to create his own automation workflows without having the need without the need of an IT person. Founders are now able to bootstrap their own startup idea by building their own MVPs. And designers, which is really relevant to us, are now free to express their own ideas. And they build their own digital products. And they can now design what they had in mind and realize their own products. And so a strange new species is born. Meet the new age creator.
This new age creator, they don't just code, but they use pre-existing platforms to craft their visions.
Yeah, and they do not fear dependency like on no-code tools. No, they see it as a leverage for efficiency.
By using these tools, they grow to be visual thinkers, where other people type code, we click buttons and drag sliders. And we learn to think in a whole new way, but yet still understanding the very fundamentals of the things that we're building with. And we do learn to embrace change, because as we all know, the internet is changing faster and faster with new tools coming on the market, each releasing new updates every week. So we have to evolve and adapt and be on top of those updates.
Yeah, and this new species also skips school.
We don't, only we do.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And yeah, so this is the new evolution of species. And to get things right, no code does not mean no code. Okay, that's pretty confusing, right? Yeah. It is like, you can better call it hidden code or non-visible code. But the main similarity between all no-code products is that you can build digital products without writing any code.
You can if you want to, but we'll get to that in 2 seconds. Because of all these tools, we hereby today want to make a division between 2 things. So on the one hand, we've got the true no-code tools. Think Framer for websites, Zapier for automations, or ReadyMag to create websites. And they allow you in a visual interface to create websites, not necessarily using the language and all the fundamentals of the web, but still allowing you to create stuff. And on the other hand, we have things that we perhaps refer to as visual coding. And in the interfaces, you very often see the actual language is the CSS properties that you use while typing. So it is a bit of a steeper learning curve, because as you normally learn HTML and CSS, you now have to learn the same language. But with the visual interface, you don't have to guess what you need to type anymore. You can click some buttons and see what each thing does, and therefore learn very quickly.
Yeah, and why should you need avoiding custom code, for example, or coding at all? Like, we are named Cut Code for a reason, and that's because of 2 main reasons. One of them is it's difficult to manage a project or a product if not anyone is able to edit all the stuff. And yeah, that's why we are using no-code tools, because designers are now able to edit their own designs themselves. And the second one is the tools are not updating the code, the custom code that you will add later on. And if you use native no-code functions, the tool will update all the code in the backend and just evolves with the years automatically. And for example, what you can make with no-code, this is like fully no-code. And this example, this is a page loader we created for Snack with Benefits. It's also fully made in no-code.
On the other hand, you could see adding extra code as sort of an extra power, which I personally use in a lot of my projects, and you might feel like that's a bit contradicting right now. But check out this example I did with my friends from Holographic, where we created a website that has tons of custom JavaScript, like a completely custom menu built with GSAP, and a whole lots of other different libraries to power different transitions. And this is mainly because of these barriers that still exist with the no-code tools. I find it cool that also by leveraging ChatGPT, hot thing, very important now, to be more efficient in coming up with this code and learning by asking the chat questions, and therefore being able to integrate this.
Yeah, and people might think that no-code is still full of performance issues, or shitty source code, or lack of security, or templates based only, or maybe like limited in functionalities, and only for static content. No scalability, and mostly for amateurs.
You get the idea, we think. It's not. We're big fans of no-code. And to illustrate you guys how big no-code has become, we want to share a report with you that we read from Gartner. And they state that by 2025, which is less than 2 years away, technically, about 70% of all new applications built by organizations will be built on low-code or no-code technology. And that is an increase from 25% only 3 years ago. So in the span of 5 years, this will grow by almost 300%. I can see some software programmers sweating right now, I think. But things are moving faster and faster, like a lot of things in the industry. It is changing the capabilities of roles. Where I started out as a designer, I can now bring my own things to life. And a really cool example, about a year ago, I was working on a website, and we had an inquiry form. And the client had a Notion database where they wanted to collect the data from that inquiry form. And they casually mentioned, like, oh, and perhaps send us an automated Slack message when someone new is added. I had absolutely no clue how to do this, but with some Googling, I found make.com. And by dragging some dots and connecting some fields, I had an automation set up in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, and at Cut the Code, our team consists of designers like visual developers only, meaning that all of our team members do both design and visual development to keep creativity in the project and their ideas, and they can bring them to life themselves. It's also changing the whole process of building digital products. For example, most of the companies are, for example, making all the prototypes first in After Effects. They are like animating how the page needs to work, but we can do that right in the final product in the same amount of time. And there is no need for pixel-perfect Figma files. So Lu Yu, I don't know if you're here, but you can have a Figma file with layers going up to 100,000 and embrace the mess in your design. And there's also like a change in how companies go, the process of that. It's with starting with MVP tools, and they can build it like really quick. And it's leveraging faster workflows. And that can be a big opportunity for real-time marketing, for example.
It's changing costs in the industry, of course. When you want to build a no-code web app, you don't have to hire that really expensive and extensive dev team anymore. You don't have to wait for a developer if you want to make small changes. And it also changes the need for the customer, where if they want to change the heading size or some colors on the project, they can do it themselves, therefore will receive less invoices. So it's changing the cost negatively for some of you.
Yeah, and it's changing like the whole ecosystem behind all the no-code tools we are using. They are collaborating with each other to have their own specialized area and integrate with each other to get like real cool products if you're using these tools together.
We could argue that, in a way, no-code is changing a very crucial relationship, which is the one between designers and developers. We all know the memes that are very often still the reality, where designers are asking extremely unrealistic things from a developer, thus meaning that they lack understanding of the fundamentals, or developers cutting corners on things that seem unimportant to them, but are really important to a designer in little details. Perhaps we can state today that no-code is the relationship therapist we never knew we needed.
Yeah, and it's also changing creativity on the web. Because we did some research. Out of the last 100 sites of the day, 20 of them were made in no-code tools. And compared to 2 years ago, only 9 of them were made in no-code tools in the exact same time period.
And we did hand count these.
Yes. And I know what you're thinking. Whoa, guys, this is the most amazing talk you've ever seen. And besides that, okay, that's cool, but please show me the money.
I want to show you this really cool Figma to Webflow plugin, allowing to take your Figma design, installing the plugin, copy your layers, and then with a click and some seconds of patience, you will have an almost fault-free working web application, a website, sorry, where it's taking your layer names as class names and it's taking your auto layout constructions as flexboxes. Or last week, Webflow had their own conference and they launched this native spline integration, what Erwin discussed with the ecosystem, where you can now take your spline model, put it into the interaction panel, and then by, again, dragging some sliders, you can completely control the scene or change the lighting. The only thing required is a really cool spline model.
Yeah. But the real power is maybe to combine it all. Like, we have an example project that's from Vacature Via. It's the biggest creative job platform in the Netherlands, and we have made it fully in no-code. So they have like a vibrant identity, so it was really cool to seek like the balance between creativity and performance. And to give you a bit of perspective on the scale of this project, they have like 200 monthly new vacancies and 125,000 job seekers and 250,000 automations each month and 9,000 pages. And first it was built in this tech stack, WordPress, MySQL, and PHP. It was outdated, and we decided to do it fully in no-code. With, for example, Airtable as the database, and for example, software as the client portal. And we have created like automation for the approval workflow. And I want you to highlight one of the flows we created in a really short time. It's built with Webflow, Airtable, Placeit, and Make.com. We have combined it all to make this automation. You will see here the order flow, and if you place a new vacancy as a customer, it will go directly into the Airtable database. Here they can like approve the vacancy, and they can like edit stuff. And right after that, if the vacancy is placed, it will also generate a social asset for the clients, which they can use to share their own vacancy on their own social media. And we have created dynamic content, and we are combining it all to make this work fully automatically. And we can even push this on live on social media if you want. And it's cool because now we had time to work on the creative part, which is really cool for us because we saved a lot of time for like in the backend stuff. And we even won a Dutch Interactive Award, which was pretty cool for this kind of new project.
And besides Vacature Via, there's lots of other global brands, like, again, much more than these. But for example, Dropbox and the New York Times jumping on the no-code train to build their landing pages for campaigns and stuff. You might be wondering, like, what's next? And here it is, the hot word of this conference, AI. We can't get around it. It's here to stay. So we need to learn how this will work. We can't ignore it, and it will change how these tools work. Because a lot of these tools, interestingly and fortunately, are very interested in integrating them and allowing us users to harness their powers to speed up our workflow and do all sorts of cool things.
For example, what if AI turns your no-code website into a real-time updated website with, based on user behaviors and user preference?
Or imagine that we can build websites simply not by typing or clicking, but by using our voices. I really should have sped up this video.
Yeah, imagine if your website generates, it has auto-generated pages based on the content of your website or your style guide or your style tokens, which you have used in the previous pages.
Please don't imagine that screens become outdated because we can wrap up this conference and go home. But let's summarize.
Yes. So, no-code is not a new hot thing. It's like the logic democratization of the web. It's a pretty difficult word. And we have to welcome this new species because they are going to stay for a longer period of time.
And if you think about it, no-code is moving in the biggest trend of the world right now. It's the trend where everything is moving into one direction. Not the one of the band, but the other direction. The one where everything in our world is becoming easier and faster and more accessible to more people all the time. You should click. Yeah.
Sorry.
And to close things, we just want to say one thing. Developers, honestly, we love you because you are the one that are deciding our superpowers. Because let's not forget that these no-code tools, they are coded. So you decide the tools that we get to play with.
Yeah, exactly. And let's be very clear. The future is not the end of coding. It's the beginning of accessible digital creation for everyone and everywhere. So thank you.
Awwwards.